Welcome into Buffalo Bills Weekly, where we're taking you behind the scenes at One Bills Drive. He's Chris Brown, I'm Maddy Glab. After 4 straight wins, the Bills dropped one to the Eagles. It came down to the final play, but Buffalo didn't do enough in the first 3 quarters to give themselves a chance. Quarterback Josh Allen, who's usually superhero, wants some plays back from this one. Third quarter, 4th and goal. The Bills are down 13. Josh Allen takes it himself and is just short of the goal line. On the very next drive, he's facing a 3rd and 8. Allen takes a sack for a loss of 19. Didn't do enough to put his team in good situations.
Yeah, and unfortunately took points off the board in those situations.
Yeah.
The 4th down you mentioned, that's a turnover on downs. You come away with nothing. The sack he takes pulls them out of field goal range. You have to punt it away. And then even the play that he fumbled on, that was ruled a fumble,
right,
questionably. But that's a play that goes for a touchdown. The only Eagles touchdown of the game on the turnover. You could argue he could have thrown that away. And then, as we know, he misses the 2-point conversion at the end on a play that I would bet he makes 99 times out of 100. Points off the board in a 1-point loss. Those plays and those decisions by Josh don't happen all that often, but when they do, they really cost the team.
It's definitely rare to see Allen do that multiple times in one game. One positive on offense, the Bills may have found their field stretcher. Veteran wide receiver Brandin Cooks, who's a new addition to the team, went off against the Eagles, averaged 25 yards per catch, did a great job of tracking the ball and finding a way to get open deep. One of those catches went for 50 yards. How can a deep threat be advantageous to Buffalo's offense at this point in the season?
Well, I think going forward, it's something that defensive coordinators have to account for. It has to be a part of their game plan for their defense. And by putting that on film, players in those defensive units are like, all right, we got to be wary of this. And I think it's going to open up the intermediate areas for guys like Shakir and Kincaid in the passing game. And it's going to pull maybe an extra player out of the box, which makes life easier for James Cook. There are tremendous ripple effects here just by what Brandin Cooks did in that game.
One thing about Cooks that we've heard from the offensive coordinator and Joe Brady and other players is Cooks is here to help the team win. He's not somebody who's asking for more targets. He's happy to do whatever it takes and brings a lot of juice to the locker room. That's somebody who's been in the league for 12 years, coming into the Bills, knows what it takes to win and knows what it takes to be a leader. Buffalo's defense was very impressive in the second half against the Eagles. They changed their identity, stopped the run, and allowed just 16 total yards, no completions. What adjustment was the biggest one that they made?
Well, I think you have to tip your hat to defensive coordinator Bobby Babich, head coach Sean McDermott. They've really embraced some new blitz schemes that they have incorporated into their defensive plan, particularly in the second half of games. We saw it against the Patriots a few weeks ago. It's the 3-3-5 nickel package with 3 linebackers on the field. They've deployed their linebackers as their speed pass rushers. It has made a tremendous difference, and they've varied it. It hasn't really looked the same from one series to the next, one game to the next, and we've seen opposing quarterbacks look terribly indecisive. Drake May, a month ago, looked as indecisive as I have seen him in his year and a half in the league. And then you look at Jalen Hurts, he doesn't even have a completion in the second half of that football game. If they can hang their hat on that, they're going to be able to keep the Bills in games where maybe their offense doesn't necessarily get off to a fast start. It's a defense that's showing they can hold this team in games, which is important come playoff time.
You mentioned how Buffalo changes their look multiple times throughout the game, especially in the second half. I've asked cornerback Tre'Davious White so many times the same question: what happens in the second half? And he says, Maddy, it's the fact that we have been together for so long. We really understand how each other can play in this scheme, and it allows us to switch things up so frequently and have success doing so.
Yeah, and I think the secondary, for the first time in a while, is finally healthy. They were unhealthy at the first half of the season, didn't even have Max Hairston as an option, their first-round pick. So their coverage has been tighter and more effective on the back end, which is helping that pass rush get home.
We've got to take a break, but coming up next, you're going to hear more from Mitch Morse as we dive into the Morse Code and the best sound bites as well from the week.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still treating it as the most important week and making sure that we're not just going through the motions and we're taking everything extremely seriously and holding ourselves to the standards that we like to hold ourselves to, which is the playoff caliber standard. So, just making sure that, having a good week of practice, game planning as well as we can, and still trying to become the best versions of ourselves throughout this week that we can. Trusting in what coach is, telling us, and I'm not sure exactly what the whole plan is, and I know we're working through some different options and some scenarios right now, but having the mindset of ready to roll, whatever's asked of me, I'm going to do, and there is that thin line between you guys are already in the playoffs and don't want to do anything too crazy and try to get healthy, but at this point is come game day, I'm going to be ready, and whether that's this week or next week, and I just got to prepare as if I'm ready to roll.
I think I mentioned after the game just having to factor in a lot of different variables into the situation this week. But at the end of the day, when you boil it down and simplify it, it's how do we improve as a football team? How do we play to our standard? And really that starts today with how we handle today as a football team and how we improve. That's really where it starts. In order to improve, you got to get egos and pride out of the way and have the right approach and the right mindset to improve. And that's really where it starts, and that's what I'm most interested in today. As it relates to the game and different things, there's obviously a lot of different paths and approaches we could take.
Welcome back to Buffalo Bills Weekly. It's time now for this week's Morse Code with former Bills center Mitch Morse. And Mitch, tough one against the Eagles. It comes down to the wire. Bills can't execute on the final play, and it costs them. But, man, it's not hard. You don't have to go very far to see some positive things that they can pull from this game as they get ready for the playoffs.
No, Chris, a formidable foe towards the end of the season is a blessing and a curse, right? Like the playoffs, you can sniff them from where you are in the season. It's a great test of where your team is. And the biggest question mark surrounding this team from the outside looking in was the defense. And you held the reigning Super Bowl champions to under 200 yards of offense. So there's some seriously commendable things you can see from this game, especially from the defensive side of the football.
Yeah, 17 total net yards in the second half for the Eagles, 0 for 5 on third down, and 0 points. Resting players ahead of the playoffs. That's going to be the big decision for Coach McDermott this week. The Bills can improve their playoff seeding in the wild card, but they're going to need some help in order to do that, in addition to posting a victory over the Jets. What is typically the player approach if and when informed by the coach what the situation is going to be, et cetera?
That's a great question. There's so many different variables that usually play into this. Of course, playoff seeding is a huge thing, but since you're not really fighting for a home playoff game, you can usually guess that at least a few select players are going to be slotted to not play. Of course, you're going into the last game of Highmark Stadium, but the most important thing on anyone's mind is trying to make that push a healthy push into the playoffs. So you can only control what you can control for the players who can and will be picked. Usually you try to get that information to those players quickly, especially the ones who might be playing, who haven't been used to playing, just so they can get into a routine, if they have one, for what to do to prep. Of course, these guys are professionals and they've been prepping like they've been playing if they're not playing, but there is definitely a different set of tone. There's a different tone, rather, to when you know you're playing, just maybe a little bit extra oomph into that stuff. You just like to know it sooner rather than later and not be surprised. Like the only guy that I know who's guaranteed probably not going to play is 17, but you never know. He could roll out for one play. The only thing you got to think about as a coach is if you do start a few starters and then they come out, then those guys intuitively become the backup players who would have to fill in if those guys get hurt. So
Right.
It's not a perfect deal. It's not a perfect situation, no matter how you skin it, but sorry. We'll see how it goes.
And Mitch, I know there are some teams that maybe aren't as experienced in the postseason. They maybe want to ride a wave of momentum into the playoffs. Where do you assess that priority for this veteran Buffalo team that's made the playoffs each of the last 6 years?
They got the script for what works for them in the playoffs. Momentum, it is, you can't deny that this is a league built off momentum. But I think the most important thing, what would kill momentum more than anything, is a key player going down. That would be an absolute momentum killer. So health being the premium, knowing the stakes, having a little bit of that juice that you might not have had. The guys been wearing a lot of injuries, even just nagging ones. And if you can get ahead of some of those, it's huge. So I don't think momentum is the biggest thing you got to worry about right now. It's about how healthy of a football team you can go out and stage for week 1 of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills had a bye week all the way back in week 7, so giving some of those guys a welcome bye here at the end may pay dividends once you get to the wild card round the following week. Mitch, thanks for the time. As always, we appreciate it. Stay tuned as Maddy Glab updates us on the progress of the new Highmark Stadium. Buffalo Bills Weekly continues right after this.
Welcome back to Buffalo Bills Weekly. In this segment, we're taking a look at what's happening across the street at the new Highmark Stadium. The temperatures are getting cold, but there's still a lot of work happening across the street. Here's a peek at the newest Built for Buffalo episode.
Steon Dawkins here. We're sneaking into the stadium today, and I hope I don't get caught. Got my go. I'm going. Listen.
Hey, get back here. So excited to have you guys. Welcome to Buffalo. Welcome to the organization.
Yeah, John and I have had a couple players through.
What's up, gang? I'm good. I'm Dion, bro.
I think the height of the building is something everyone responds to.
And this area right here is where introductions will happen in 2026. So I'm actually going to let you guys go ahead, walk through this area.
We've had some progress since it was here last, huh?
I don't think anybody ever really expected the building to be so dominant and intimidating to them.
Golly, bro. This is crazy.
It's the same reaction that I always see with everybody. It's like the wow moment. It's that I feel like I'm in a coliseum.
We in like a freaking FIFA soccer field. This is insane. I don't think y'all understand, because I underestimated it.
Instead of the seats flaring out as much as they normally do, the seats are tipped up a little bit.
And then the first question is, well, that seating bowl looks too steep. Is it allowed to be that steep? It's like, yeah, everything's fine.
What's like the maximum amount of wind you'll feel in here?
Very little.
Okay.
We've been here where the wind is howling outside, and then you come stand down here, and it feels like this.
To somehow manifest that intimacy and that intimidation factor in the same thing, and then have people walk in and look around and they can feel it, and it's not done yet.
Yeah, I just like how open everything is.
All right, guys, you are standing in the future locker room of the Buffalo Bills.
I think that this is going to be offense. That's my prediction.
I can see him doing that.
They all want to go to the bathrooms. Ask John, he'll say the same thing.
I need to know where the showers are.
You know, the locker room's great, but they're like, really, show me the showers. I want to see the showers. Okay, that looks big enough.
Sauna steam there?
Yep.
People look up at the cantilevered roof. That seems to get a lot of attention.
Then the other thing that I can't wait is the noise.
And then when we point out all the speakers and the speaker arrays.
And they can start thinking about what it's going to sound like and how much louder it's going to be.
His play's about to be rocking.
Understanding what the volume of that stadium is going to be when you've got 60,000 fans in there cheering the team on.
First game of the season, snowman pad coming off. Thought about.
I'm open.
Their first reaction was, this is a place that I'm excited to play as a home player and a place that I absolutely do not want to play as a visiting player.
What I hope for is when they walk into this building, that investment was worth it, and that the amount of work that we've done exceeds all expectations of what they thought they were getting themselves into. That is going to be better.
I feel an overwhelming sense of pride for what this building is going to represent.
This is what you call greatness, man. I'm excited to start playing in here. I'm glad I get a chance, though, to experience that and then feel the real upgrade. Hey, what's up, fellas? It's the Bills up here. It's a couple of players trying to get back down, so come to get us from the press box. We'll be out of here in a second. Over copy, all right? Over and out, 10-4.
Coming up next on Buffalo Bills Weekly, Chris and I are previewing the final regular season game against the Jets, and we're also taking a look back at some of our favorite memories in Highmark Stadium. The last game ever before the Bills close up shop and move across the street for 2026. Welcome back to Buffalo Bills Weekly. The Bills are facing the Jets in the final game of the regular season at Highmark Stadium. Buffalo has already punched their ticket to the playoffs. They don't know seeding yet. Buffalo can move up in the ranks, but can't win the division. So the big question here, do the Buffalo Bills sit or play their starters?
I think the priority here is going into the playoffs healthy. You'd like to improve your standing. You're also playing a very poor Jets team. And I think if you polled most Buffalo Bills fans, they would think Mitchell Trubisky is good enough to beat the Jets. So I don't really expect to see Josh in this game outside of taking a snap at the beginning to maintain his consecutive start streak and then exit. I think some other frontline players have to sit down. Dalton Kincaid should not see the field in this game knowing he's nursing a knee injury. Joey Bosa should probably not play. I think the trickiest decision here is James Cook, who's going for a rushing title, and he's got Jonathan Taylor hot on his heels. It's going to be a difficult decision for Sean McDermott because we know he is a key cog to this team's playoff chance.
One thing that McDermott is dealing with when it comes to these roster decisions, as well as the fact that it's the final game ever at Highmark Stadium. In the regular season, I should add. There's still a way Buffalo can get back to Highmark in the playoffs, but they got to win a few games. The fact that it's the final game at Highmark means there's a lot of emotion across the street. People want to enjoy every single moment, soak it all up. The Bills have called Highmark Stadium home for the last 52 years. There's been some very memorable games in that stadium. What's your favorite moment?
I think one of the more recent moments that's my favorite is the Taron Johnson 101-yard interception return for a touchdown in the divisional playoff against the Ravens. Just because of all the circumstances that surrounded that game, it's the COVID year. There's only 6,800 fans in the seats.
Yeah.
And I still remember Al Michaels on the television broadcast saying 6,800 sounded like 68,000 on that interception return. It's a top 5 play in Bills history.
One thing I'll remember from that play is there was that huge kind of TV screen right by the sidelines, the goal line, I should say, where players came in after celebrating and they all flexed. They got to see themselves on camera, and I remember the whole defense running over there and celebrating after that pick six. Man, that is definitely a play to remember. In terms of moments, I think I go back to the 2022 season. The Bills are coming off the Cincinnati game where safety Damar Hamlin suffered a cardiac arrest episode. So much emotion. Everybody was really wondering and hoping, is Damar Hamlin going to be okay? He made these incredible strides within the first few days recovering from that cardiac arrest episode. So the game against the Patriots was all about showing Hamlin love. Well, returner Nyheim Hines was all about that love because he takes the opening kickoff 96 yards to score. The stadium went absolutely nuts. And he did it again in the third quarter, goes 101 yards to score for the second time. There was a big exhale when that happened. And I feel like the whole stadium felt like we can finally enjoy this moment. We can have a party in here. Everybody was having a great time. Steve Tasker and I were crying. Josh Allen said it was spiritual. It definitely felt that way.
Sean McDermott was crying after the first return because it's the first play of the game.
Yeah.
After that, I still remember fans holding number 3s and hearts. They all had the hearts that they were holding up in the stands. It was, probably the most emotional day in recent memory.
Yeah, it's still emotional talking about it to this day. Chris, what's your favorite game?
Favorite game, I always come back to the 2003 season opener, again, because of all the circumstances surrounding that game. Bills, Patriots. The Patriots had quickly ascended to be the most hated rival, and Lawyer Malloy had been cut by the Patriots on a Monday, signs with the Bills on a Tuesday, plays in that game, sacks Tom Brady. Brady has 4 interceptions, and Sam Adams with one of those interceptions, 330-pound Sam Adams going 37 yards the other way with a convoy of teammates with him, high step into the end zone. I still maintain it's the loudest I have ever heard the stadium. The ground was literally shaking, and not because 330-pound Sam Adams was running, but because everybody in that building was going absolutely bonkers.
I'm laughing because so many of our memorable moments and games are against the Patriots. So I'll give you another one against the Patriots. 2021 wild card round against the Patriots. The Bills beat them 47-17. It was their perfect game on offense. They scored on every single drive. They were on fire, literally could not be stopped, and the Patriots couldn't find the fire extinguisher. Josh Allen led the charge, super efficient day, a 157.6 passer rating. That is so close to perfect. 5 touchdowns. What a game by the Bills.
Tommy Doyle even had a touchdown at the
offensive
end.
lineman.
An offensive tackle on the last touchdown of that game. It was unbelievable.
The Bills' record in Highmark Stadium in the 52 years they played in that stadium is 246-163. They are 16-3 in the playoffs. Sean McDermott and Josh Allen have a really good record in the playoffs at Highmark Stadium. We want to thank you for tuning in to Buffalo Bills Weekly. For Chris Brown, I'm Maddy Glab. We'll see you next week.